Hello, everyone. I'm Karma Cut,
And I'm Moydog, and welcome to Command Comms.
the podcast where we talk about everything and anything related to tactical shooters. All right, guys. So welcome back to episode 8 of Command Comms. Today, we're going to be talking about tactical shooter scene as a whole. Right now, with even V2 on the horizon for Squad, and Tarkov teasing some street stuff, and even Hell Let Loose getting some updates. The scene, I think, for us right now feels a little bit stale, and we're going to be talking about our feelings about that right now. And maybe it could be burnout, and we might be getting into the whole how does it feel to be a content creator and hitting that burnout kind of wall. But yeah, let's kick it right off. Moy, how do you feel right now about the current state of tactical shooters?
I am super excited to constantly be playing beta games that never go into release and are just always being worked on. No, I think you kind of hit it on the head there. It does feel. I mean, there's some updates coming to Hell Let Loose, and it looks
Mm-hmm.
great visually. Some of the stuff I've seen is really cool. The explosions, the fortifications they have, it is all still really cool. It still feels like the game that they want to promote is not really the game that I experience. A lot of the communication and tactics and stuff like that, it still kind of falls flat usually for me, even though it is really fun. Tarkov, we're now, I don't even know how many months into this wipe
Mm-hmm.
where it's the in-game meta is kind of stale, and then Squad, you say V2's right on the horizon, but is it? I don't know. Maybe. Like we think now V2, if you're just getting caught up on everything Squad, is now going to be released January sometime. So we've now pushed back some of the content that should have really been released almost 2 months ago. The Marines are now delayed as well to sometime anywhere between January to March. There's just a lot of stuff that isn't happening right now, and I know we live in unprecedented times, but you're kind of looking at what to play and how to enjoy it, and you're kind of like, dude, is this it? Is there anything else, or are we just, what's going on? Do I play Cyberpunk today instead of Squad, or like
Mm-hmm.
what's happening?
Yeah, I think I definitely share your kind of sentiment right now. It's like, despite a lot of things happening and some interesting news regarding a lot of different games in the scene, for whatever reason, I get this feeling sometimes where it feels like we're hitting a wall. And I guess it has more to do with the fact that despite these games having, some content releases either teased in the future or even releasing currently, there's something that I guess at a certain point you just hit a burnout wall. And especially because, you and I play these games essentially for a living every single day, it's very easy to hit this kind of wall, especially because when we think about it, I don't really know if these games were meant to be played like that compared to games like, you know, WoW, or, games that have like so much depth, so much complexity, and are meant to like actually have huge time sinks into them that you can do multiple different things. When you look at it, the amount of time that you and I spend on these games like Tarkov or Squad or Hell Let Loose or these other tactical shooters, especially as indie development games, the content there, I don't even know if it's enough to sustain that kind of play style.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
I don't. I'm gonna go off on a limb and say no, it's not. And I remember testing Fallujah, and when it was in the public play test, and we were pretty much just all like Fallujah. One of the map designers and the devs who worked on it in OWI, he was in chat, and he basically said, like, stop playing Fallujah. Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get sick of Fallujah. It's not meant to be played just 24/7, and it is not. I 100% agree. We just wanted to get all the new stuff and learn it, but it's so intense. It kind of really, everything that is a tactical shooter can get really boiled down and amplified and turned to 11 when you have a map like Fallujah. And it gave me that kind of same feel of like, oh my god, I feel like I have to play this game, but it's kind of intense right now. And maybe I'm getting a little burnt out on Fallujah. Maybe I should try something else. And now, months later, Fallujah is also stale. A lot of other stuff is stale, but I think it's also like, I feel like the content is a nice carrot on the stick. Like, it's really cool if we were to get the Marines. It's really cool for the Mosin Nagant and Squad. It's really cool to get Streets of Tarkov. But if we were to get Streets of Tarkov, I think people would really enjoy it. But we still don't have a wipe.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to get a bunch of new content for Squad, but maybe there's a gameplay loop or game mode, or there's something not clicking, to maybe even help new players just stop making new player mistakes, and the veterans are all sick of teaching those new players, and so it makes the games better. There's like something weird not clicking for a lot of these games that you kind of just look at it and you're like, okay, cool. I mean, this is nice, but am I going to have that same experience that I've been having, for day in and day out for a few months now?
Yeah, I definitely think that new player thing that you talked about, it's a very interesting problem that I think a lot of these games, these like niche tactical shooter games have. It's like this problem is really tricky because on one hand, you want to introduce new players to these games, but especially in platoon shooters like Squad or Postscriptum or Hell Let Loose or any of these big 50 versus 50 games, the when you do these large like free weekends like Squad just had, it's great for the game because people come in, like I was looking on the Reddit, people were having a great time playing, they're very happy, and they end up, buying the game and becoming regular players. But I think what you end up having is like this huge influx of brand new players to Squad. And I think it's like always bittersweet because whenever we have these big weekends, we have people who are like, yes, it's so good to get new players into the game. And then you have all the vets go, oh my God, I'm not playing Squad this weekend. So it's like a really interesting balance that like the community and even OWI as a company just needs to keep in mind. Because if, for example, it's really weird because if OWI had done a free weekend, let's say just OWI did a free weekend every single week for a month, it would almost completely change the game. Like that little change of making it easily accessible and just having that huge influx would completely change all the metas to a lower level. That's like a really tricky balance to have because you need to introduce this game to more players, but like you need to also make sure that you're not overloading the veteran player base who is going through and teaching all these new players, because that's where most of the learning is, right? Like OWI did make a tutorial, but let's be real, like it's a breather and it's a great way to like get in there and just look at some information when you specifically know what you want. But I think most of the people who play Squad just are learning from doing. And that, when you're on a server, I'll tell you, if I'm in a tank and I'm gunning the tank and I have a brand new player to Squad in the front seat, and this happened to me on stream a couple days ago, I was like, oh, this is really cool. This guy's having such a blast. I can hear it. He's laughing. He's having a great time. And I'm happy for this guy. But then also in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, the bitter vet is like, oh my God, this guy's running into every tree and this guy's hitting rocks and stuff. We're going off the road. We're flipping. And it's just like, it's really weird because in my heart, I'm so happy to see these players, but in my brain, it's like, God damn it, I just want someone to drive straight. So yeah.
It's a weird feeling because I love seeing the game grow, and I get new people in, and I'm sure you do too. Literally every day that say, "Hey, I just got it," or "I was just at this free weekend and now I got it." And you see them, they hop in the server, and they all make stupid mistakes. We all make stupid mistakes. And then as day in and day out, the new people, you realize these new people are not stopping, but the person you used to play with is stopping. And so that's where you start to have this almost critical mass of new players now are the majority, and the old players are not. And I'd say, I don't know if this is controversial to say, but free weekends aren't the problem. These sales aren't the problem. Shroud streaming it to 20,000 people isn't the problem. The problem is that the game itself, in my opinion, doesn't teach people. And for years, we've had the community hold everybody accountable because you have your server rules, you have vets, that one guy who does SL1, infantry mic required, that guy who does a mic check and, he gets all the newbies and he cat herds for round on round and round. Like, by not having a tutorial that is, I mean, we have a tutorial. It's kind of more like a game mechanics, like how to walk around and unload a logi, some basic stuff, but without really having a way to indoctrinate people to game modes, to just how things happen, how roles work, tickets, stuff like that. Like you get that SL1 guy and you just kind of wear him down to eventually he doesn't show up that one night, and you now have some guy who's never created a squad before create a squad. He has no mic, he has no SL kit, and it just starts spiraling from there.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with, especially like that critical mass, right? Let's say I have a squad of 9 guys. I'm okay with like 3 of them being brand spanking new to the game. you get any more than like you get to 4, you're kind of towing that like this squad is going to be chaos. You get to 5, and you're at the realm of like this squad is not going to listen to anything that I do anyways, and you don't have the time to baby them. And it's just like when you have these free weekends, and I know like having a tutorial will help, but unless you make it required, like a lot of people just skip it. Like people just are overwhelmed. The squad leaders are literally overwhelmed because if you have more new players than veteran players playing the game, or more people who don't know what they're doing more than the people who do know what they're doing, because there are existing players that kind of know how to play rifleman, but if you have SLs that don't use their comms and it's just like a good chunk of the server, squad relies on so much teamwork that is enough to cripple your game experience. And so it's just, maybe they make the tutorial, required and mandatory, and maybe they like, I can't remember if we talked about this, but I remember in America's Army, like they had a very thorough tutorial, and like if you team killed too often or whatever, they would send you back to the tutorial. Like it was like very controlled. That's how I remembered America's Army, and maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly, but I think something like that kind of needs to get implemented, because the strain that this teaching puts on the community it's overwhelming sometimes, and it breeds a lot of toxicity. There's a lot of elitism, when right now what we really need is just a smoother transition from new player to regular PUBG on the servers. It just needs to get smoothed out a little bit, because God, sometimes it feels like as a server owner you're like drinking water through a fire hose. It's just the queues pop, there's chaos on the server, and it's just like, or maybe if new players on the server had like a free weekend tag next to their name, so that like squad leaders could know to like sort them or something.
That would be chaos. Oh my God, nobody would get into squad. They never get a vehicle. They'd be like, oh man, sorry, didn't see you there. Dropped a grenade.
Yeah,
like.
But I almost feel like if I saw that and I see that my driver has that, I'm like on the same page, and I'm like, I have the expectation that like I need to kind of baby this guy. But I think part of it, like when we get into the server, is like I tell someone to do something and I'm operating under the assumption that he knows what he's doing, and then he doesn't do it properly, or he completely fucks up, or he stands there like trying to fiddle with the controls for 5 minutes, or if he just says, hey, I'm a new player, teach me how to do this, boom, I teach you, and we're done.
Yeah
I don't know.
I'm in two minds about this, because
Mhm.
I overhear these conversations between these people in local, and they just talk about how awesome of a time they had.
Mhm.
And I'm so happy for that. And then I think back and I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about that match. I was literally just squad leading basically for 49 other people.
Mhm.
And it's this weird, I'm sure a little bit of it is elitism, because we play it so much that we feel a little bit like, hey, can you guys play better? Can you go there? Do you have to be told ABC and all this type of stuff? I'm sure there's a little bit of it, but it's never felt so like V1, the release of V1. I know a lot of people have said that it feels like there hasn't really been a stop of a free weekend, that free weekender feel, since V1.
Mhm.
And then that's just been wearing on everybody. And then with the actual free weekend, it just opened the floodgates, and then it's now like yikes. But I see it. There were definitely some games. I was looking on the Reddit. There was a game where pretty much it was Fallujah. MEA had all of their vehicles abandoned in the middle of the map. They had zero
Oh,
habs
I
up,
saw that picture.
and they're
Mhm.
all walking
They're
from
all
main.
running from main. Yep, I saw that
I-
picture.
I saw that and I'm like, dude, I know that feel, man.
If I'm ever in a game like that, or if I ever end up in that situation, I'm literally just gonna admin and match, because like there's no, like there should be a button to like just surrender as a team. Like in League of
Kill
Legends,
switch.
you just hit F to surrender, or
Oh,
just hit yes.
God.
It's just God. Yeah, no. The thing is about in squad is like when you're losing, you are losing badly. It's never like, oh, we're kind of losing this. Usually when you get that free weekender loss, it's like you're getting rolled. It's not fun at all. There's no surrender mechanic. There's no like, there is some mercy bleed in some game modes, but otherwise you're just getting absolutely slaughtered. You're running in, you're just and you and I like are the kind of players that are like trying to salvage the situation. So we're trying to get halves
Yeah.
over, trying to get people organized. People are not listening. People are giving up. It's just like, it gets to a point where it's just overwhelming. It's like really overwhelming. And I don't know. I feel like maybe if you could only allow a certain amount of free weekenders in per server so that you can kind of, I don't know. I don't know what kind of thinking needs to
Man,
go
but
on here.
I know it's like the really what I keep because I was thinking about this a lot today. We were even talking about it on stream today, and I just keep going back to at a point the game has to be responsible for its own game, you
Hmm.
know. And I absolutely love the sandbox that OWI has created for us in Squad, but the community is basically being overwhelmed to the sense that it's not really fun to be that community bedrock. It's like so for so long, and you're kind of looking at the game, and it's like, okay, cool, like I can handle this. Maybe give us if you just gave us a breadcrumb of new content, so those guys who I've been playing with for years would just come back for just a couple weeks to help shepherd these people. That would be great, but we don't have that breadcrumb, so the guys who would normally come check out the new stuff, they're not doing it. And they
Yeah.
haven't done it for when was our last actual update? I'm trying to think. It was V1, right? We actually haven't had anything for
Yeah, we
4 months.
haven't. I mean, yeah, no, we haven't anything since V1. It's
Because
yeah,
we even had like trying to do the playtest, which has been it's unfortunate to say the playtest for V2 has been a disaster because we're now 2 weeks from when it was released. We still have very big game breaking bugs. I mean, the potato fields, we still have a server running it. Nobody plays it because there's just some really broken stuff on it. And so even that type of stuff that normally we could pop a playtest server after a few days, the people who wanted to come check it out, they looked at the stream, they saw some of the bugs, and were like, "All right, see you in 2021 because it ain't ready yet. Put it back in."
hmm,
It's very difficult to look at your squad and realize you don't recognize people. Because
yeah. It's
you feel alone
it's an
trying to.
exponentially like it gets worse. It gets so much worse, just exponentially worse. The more players that get up, like as soon as you have players, veterans start to like walk away from the game, that has a very big reaction among the community, right? So like if enough of my ops guys don't log on, my other ops guys aren't going to log on, and then that
Yep.
problem gets worse and worse and worse, and then your literal gameplay experience suffers drastically for the entire community. And so it's a big problem that I don't really see like any solutions as far as like OWI is considering like actually coming out anytime soon. And most of the things, and this is where I think that a lot of the direction at OWI is like going in a really I'd say weird way, is like they're focused on these little like I almost dare to say inconsequential additions to the game. Like it's cool shiny stuff, but you could almost see them as cosmetics, right? They're
Yeah.
not really changing fundamentals of how certain mechanics, even like the tutorial, function within the game. A lot of it's like, oh, new faction, new map, new vehicles, and they're just almost cosmetics in a sense of how you see Squad as a game. I know they're actual things, but they are not really going to change how the game is played. They're just going to change how certain things look and feel. So I don't know if they need to really do like something needs to happen. And I think especially like hearing the news that like Will, the CEO of OWI, is stepping down. It's like it kind of shakes my faith in the studio a little bit. Like Will is well within his right to leave. He's gotten the game out to full release. There's so much that's been done for the game, and he definitely deserves. He's done what he said for getting the game out full launch, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. V2 gets delayed, and it's concerning. And I know there's a lot of people there who are working really hard on the product, but just as a consumer looking out in, it's very troublesome.
It's a little
And
ominous,
it's a little,
right?
yeah, it doesn't feel good. I'll just say that. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. And as someone who loves this game and wants to continue, right? Because I have to disclaim that I want to just be pooping on OWI to poop on them. It's just coming from a point of concern for something that I do love, and I still to this day play every single day.
Yeah, I think you're well within your right to say that, and I have the same sentiment. And I think anybody who watches any of our content understands that we care about this game, and we care about the devs, and we respect everything that they're doing because the game that we play day in and day out is or for the most part awesome. You know, there's some
Hmm.
issues that just drag us down eventually when it happens over and over again, but ultimately we see a good direction for it. But I mean, it's completely fair to say if we go back to, did this release what, September 23rd? So about
Hmm.
4 months ago, V1 released. During the V1 release, we were looking at a roadmap between V1 release and basically today. We were supposed to get insurgent updates. We were supposed to get new gameplay hab mechanic changes. We were supposed to have a new layer implementation. We were also supposed to be celebrating a 5th year anniversary with the Marine Corps, and a new map and amphibious vehicles. We have none of that. The the CEO has left, and Marines are delayed till even maybe March. So it's
Yeah.
like, what?
It's
And it's a huge just question mark. And I understand when I look at that, because I look at my game, the server, my squad, and I'm like, dude, why aren't you playing? And then I think of what I just said. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I just get this feeling, and it happen. And usually, this only happens when there hasn't been a big update. But I just get this burnt out feeling, and maybe that's natural, and that's totally acceptable, and it's probably what's supposed to happen. Is like you just get burnt out. These games aren't supposed to be played like how much we
Is it
play them.
because it's tactical? Because you're dealing. Well, is it because it's tactical, or is it because there's other people that the content or the scaling? Like, do you know what your feel is? Like, why? You know,
Sure.
why?
So I think it's because I know that there was a time when this game felt good. When the people you played with were great, when the servers, like I remember like
Back
wanting,
in my
waking up.
day.
I remember just waking up. I know this game had its period for me. And I know that there was a time when this game was like the game, and I dreamt of this game, and I hopped on and I played every second that I could. And I can't tell right now if it's because of the state of the game or if it's because maybe I've just played it too much at this point. But there's a part of me that knows that the game can feel a certain way because it has. So that's my whole thing, is I'm just trying to get that feeling back. And I'm not even just sitting here looking at OWI to do it. Like I've taken my own steps to try to do whatever I can to, increase the replayability, make things more fun, whether that's through modding or through these squad ops events. I've like done so much to keep this game entertaining for so many people that when I see OWI kind of, I guess, more or less not hold up their side of the bargain, I guess I would say, kind of ish, is disheartening. Is disheartening as a community leader for someone who's like put in all this work and time. And I'm by no means obligated by OWI to do this. I do this because I enjoy doing it. It just kind of sucks. It just kind of sucks to see things get delayed, or people leave the studio, or things are not happening as they should. And it's just rough. So that's just something that, I don't know, I guess. And I'm sure you as a community leader as well, like you put in a whole bunch of time into making guides. You put on a whole bunch of time into leading your potato field servers and getting admins and making sure the admins are, making sure the server's playing well and all that. It's rough to see when you've been expecting certain content updates or certain good news, and it's just delayed. It's just delayed. Bad news, delayed, and we don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it a little bit. Maybe why we might feel a little bit different, because we're like day in and day out pretty attached to the hip with this game. Sometimes we may stray away from it, but we always kind of come back just because this is what we like, but it's also, part of our job and things like that. So I think we have a different relationship with it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but you definitely do feel a little bit just like, uh, there's, as you said, they don't owe us anything. They're just making a game that they want to make. But a little bit, you kind of feel like, well, hey, dude, I'm here every day. I'm showing up to work basically. Playing this game. I know I'm not a game dev, but hey, maybe we could have a little bit of help here with the new player experience, or the content that was delayed, or maybe just some communication. So I definitely feel that, and I think that might also have some effect to it, because when you're with a game that has such reliance on other people, it's
Yes.
very difficult to look at the game and say, okay, I am trying to do things to get new people or to retain these people. And sometimes you feel, whether rightly or wrongly, you kind of look at the Trello board or the roadmap or an update or a tweet or whatever, and you're like, dude, why? I know you care about this as well, but sometimes it feels like you don't. You know,
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
mhm. It's very much like, as you said, they don't owe us anything. But in a game like Squad that is so community focused, if community leaders just stop caring about the game, Squad would be a dead game. And you know why? Because Squad doesn't even host their own official servers. Every single server on that server browser list is community hosted. This game very much lives or dies right now based off of communities. If all the community leaders and people who actually have to pay so that other people can play on the servers that they've bought just say, hey, you know what, this game is like, I don't feel it from the devs, I don't feel like that, then OWI either needs to step up to the plate and say, okay, hey, we're gonna host the servers, we're gonna have the admins, all this stuff. But this game, more or less, and it's really interesting when you look at it, relies on a lot of community work to function, right? Because OWI doesn't have to buy any server hardware, period. OWI doesn't have to have any, server moderation or admins or anything like that because it's all community. They don't even have any automated systems to handle any of that. They don't have to put in any of the work there because it's all handled by the community. So while, yes, they don't owe us anything, I think the reason why certain communities get a little biffed about this is because at the end of the day, we do a lot of work for them, whether they asked for it or not, and the game literally drives on it.
yeah, it's a double-edged sword
Mm-hmm.
because I love the ability to control my own server, to control my own community. But at the end of the day, that's it's we're kind of out on a boat with this uh the the open world experience playground, whatever you want to call it, sandbox that they presented, and you kind of got to roll with whatever limitations they put on or new stuff. And so yeah, it's I feel like it's a little different, like kind of shifting gears a little bit. It still feels different compared to a game like Hell Let Loose, because I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because the tactics or the strategy or there's something. I feel like Hell Let Loose, I'm okay if I just go in and just, I don't know, kind of arcadey. You have that little tactical, hardcore feel to it, but you don't feel as invested. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's not because I don't spend nearly as much time playing Hell Let Loose's Squad, but I see kind of the updates and I see the gameplay and I see the servers and people are always super hyped about it. I I I, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like there's such a big negativity or negative feeling towards a game like Hell Let Loose having a free weekend or a game of maybe Insurgency having a free weekend. Yeah, it still affect your team and things like that, but it seems like super intense when Squad has this type of stuff that just the community backlash is huge compared to other games.
I think it's because those games are so much more forgiving than Squad is, right? Because Squad is very much like, even in Hell Let Loose, like if you start getting rolled, the roll isn't that bad. It doesn't feel like you're getting absolutely farmed. The maps are small enough that you can run in. Like it's very much so. I think the games are less, hardcore. They're less grindy when you're getting smacked, because in Squad, when you're getting smacked, you get rolled back to main, you have to run in, it's just like it's chaos. Whereas like Hell Let Loose, like the respawns are low, it's just not that bad when you start getting really messed up. And it's I don't know, I think it just has to do with the game design there. But that being said, like the double edge, the other side of the coin there is that Hell Let Loose never gives me the same feel that Squad does, right?
Yeah,
It
true.
doesn't give me the, oh my God, look, the team is working together, it's so amazing. Hell Let Loose doesn't get that good for me. It's a more consistent experience overall. But that means that, the lows aren't so low, but the highs aren't that high, which is in Squad, you can get some pretty huge, formations or tactical stuff going on. But then when you start getting camped in on this habit, I know you experienced it that other day when you hopped on the occupation server. Like, wait, it's like brutal. It's like you don't want to play anymore. You get smacked around. So there's definitely, I think, that level of consistency. And this is something that we talked about before, is about how Squad isn't consistent as it could be in its gameplay. You either have like really swingy games, or you have like really meat grinder games. So that's just something that I think sets those games apart. And Sandstorm as well, right? It's more or less a lobby shooter. You just go around and you load in the next match
Yeah.
and you just shoot people. It's like I never get the same kind of feel that I do in Squad in those kind of games. So that's probably why you and I are still playing Squad to this day, despite all of the
True.
problems and sentiments. It's just like there's no game like it, unfortunately or fortunately. There's just no other game like it.
So if we, although there's no other game like Squad, I think shifting gears a little bit, if we're talking about state of games and stale and things like that, there's also no other game like Tarkov.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of were talking a little bit at the start of the podcast, and we've talked about it in the past, had a whole podcast about it, and mentioning the new content with Streets coming up. But how have you been playing Tarkov recently? Like, has it felt like, I know you got pretty deep into Tarkov earlier this year and you were all Tarkov and you were just enjoying the hell out of it. And I, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was still the same wipe. Like, that was still the same content, and basically nothing has changed since then. Is this also a game that kind of right now you're just kind of like, okay, I'm waiting, I'm kind of treading water with this tactical shooter too, and nothing's really drawn me back in?
Yeah, so same thing, like Squad's not alone when we hit these burnout cycles or these like long periods without, a big update. Tarkov does it too, so it's not like it's just all OWI's fault and OWI is the only studio to have this issue.
Come on, man, it's all their fault. They're 100% in charge. Come on.
Yeah, I think it's just indie studios in general, because I know Sandstorm has had issues as well. Like they push back console release date. They're having issues with there was a huge period of time where Sandstorm could not get an update out. I think it's literally not even like OWI specific or even tac shooter specific. I think it's just indie studio specific, and it makes sense. These are new studios who are taking on huge projects to deliver massive games that have a lot of following, or at least relatively a lot of following, and they've never really done too many games before, and it's that inexperience that really delays things. And I think coming from a gamer perspective of someone who's always played AAA shooters for the most part, I never really jumped into any indie studio games before. Like, I guess certain expectations are higher, or we have a different idea of what the release cycle should look like. So jumping into, I think Squad was definitely one of my first indie shooters. Like, seeing that is kind of, it sucks, but you kind of have to be okay with it because no one else is making these kinds of games, right? So Tarkov specifically, we're running into the same issue here with Battlestate. It's like the wipe has been we're waiting for a wipe for God knows. I don't even know how long it's been since last wipe, but it's been a while. We're waiting on Streets, the new map, which has been teased, and that's, coming out God knows when. But these long periods in between updates, it's just like, it's rough, because I think the player base demands to want to be able to play like every day and be happy and play it every day, and that's what they want. They want to be happy playing the game as much as possible. But maybe that's just not possible, or that shouldn't be expected from independent studios. It's just really weird. Same thing with Sandstorm, right? We talked about that before. And even Postscriptum, the issue with the SDK. Like, the common theme here doesn't seem to be one studio in particular or one genre of game. It just seems to be that they're all independent studios, and they all are fighting and struggling with this problem. And hopefully it gets better with time, right? But as far as Tarkov, same thing. Waiting on this new content update, waiting on a wipe. We're just hitting these long, stale burnout periods.
So it's just still kind of same old for you. Nothing really exciting. I mean, if you get, like, let's see. If I'm getting sick of Squad, I would go to Tarkov. If I get sick of Tarkov, I'd go to Squad. If I got sick of both, I might go outside. Ooh. Like, so I mean, is there anything, when you look at the tactical shooters, it's so weird though, man, because when I get frustrated at Squad and I have a bad Squad experience, I would literally, I know I was just memeing here, but I would literally go to Tarkov and then kind of back and forth. But I always feel like I just miss that large scale hanging out with people and coming up with cool strategic stuff and having these tactics and thinking about all the stuff. But then I eventually circle back and I just get disappointed and then disappointed. I go back something else and then I'm like, all right, now maybe I can have fun with it, and just keep getting disappointed. So it's like I kind of feel like I do that with a lot of these tactical shooters right now. I don't know if people are just not as interested, or maybe we're just jaded from playing them day in and day out. I don't know how to make it fresh without all the new stuff, or maybe with the new players just getting better at the game. I
Hmm.
kind of just look at it and I'm scratching my head. Dude, I played Cyberpunk earlier this week and it was a whole lot of fun. But afterwards, I was kind of like, dude, okay, I kind of want to play Squad. And I played Squad and it was chaos because it's a free weekend. So I'm like, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm scratching my head. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, see, there's a good meme that I saw like a couple years back where it's like gaming is like you open the fridge and the fridge is stocked and you're like, there's nothing to eat, right? Or it's a girl who looks into the closet and like there's nothing to wear, right? And I think maybe it's just human nature. You know, we get used to things and we don't know what to, and we just are reminiscing about like, oh, what's the best thing I could eat and what's my favorite thing to eat? Oh, well, I remember this one awesome gaming time on this one game, and then it just the expectations just get higher and higher and higher,
Yeah.
and the game just won't meet it because you've been playing it so much, and maybe you know the game studio isn't putting up updates as much. Your friends have left the game, or you know maybe you've worn that piece of clothing like too often. You've eaten that food too much, and it's never gonna like. It's really weird. It's a really weird thing, and maybe it's unhealthy for us to be playing these single games like so much, but it's like what we want to do, and it's
But
like
I
really
need it.
yeah. It's
I
like
inject Squad into my face every day.
yeah.
I need it.
So definitely it's same thing for Tarkov to answer your question. Like I look at Tarkov, it's like I just don't have a drive to play the game right now. I need wipes. I want something to spark me to play that game again because when I like playing that game, I like playing that game. And I know that sounds really weird, but it's like when I get the passion to play that game, I generally always have a fun time playing it. But if I ever try to like force myself into that state of mind of like having a good time in Tarkov, I can't get there on my own. It's really weird. I don't know if you ever have that too. Same thing
Yeah.
with Squad. Yeah.
Well, I was. It's definitely that makes sense. Like you, if you kind of force yourself, or you if you have nothing, like nothing that you want to do in the game, and you kind of just load it up, it's really easy to get disappointed, whether it's Squad or Tarkov or whatever. But you know, if all of a sudden you're like, dude, I'm so excited, let's make something happen, yada yada yada, you get super pumped, you amp yourself up. But I definitely feel like sometimes, like, okay, you know, I look at my Steam library, I literally have probably thousands of games. I don't know. Like I have a small little section that has a tactical shooter side, and I look at them and I always just keep going back to the Squad, and I think of the fond memories of Squad and all that type of stuff. And I think, or I look at Tarkov and I think of the fond memories of this really cool raid I have in Tarkov. And then I load up and, you know, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try something different. And then I just get, you know, meted by the meta weapon and the best gear and the best ammo. This guy barely looks at me and just clicks for half a second and I'm dead. And I'm like, okay, well, that was fun.
Hmm.
Like, let's just move forward. So it's the tactical shooter. I feel like it's just so dependent on other people that it's very hard to just keep playing all the time. And I think it was Insurgency. Insurgency had an update, I believe, and it was mentioning about co-op. Insurgency has co-op, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about Arma, and I realized it's like, dude, I don't care at all about co-op. I hate that. Like like I would rather just not play games if I had to play against co-op. I feel like at this point, because it's that isn't fun to me playing this type of stuff. The cool things that happen in game are from other people. And I feel like these types of games, like if I want to branch out and play these other tactical games, I have to settle for excuse me, I have to settle for like stuff that's just computer driven, and computer driven gets old. Even like, as much as it's annoying to have new players screw up, it's much more annoying to just have computers be computers. And that's something like I could load up back in the day, I could spend just hours, probably even now, just hours and days playing like Civilization, playing some like these, you know, big RTS games, even like WoW. If I get the WoW itch, I can just play day in and day out. But it's like those games, I feel like I can create my own little world. Like it's a little bit different, but if you're doing these tactics and stuff like that, it's only so much you can do with a computer. It just feels very, ugh, I don't know. Computer and tactical shooters. I
So
don't want that.
So here's one thing that I honestly, if I look back and I booted it up again, it's like I created a Sandstorm mod for co-op versus AI, and so that was like a very interesting project or like fun thing that I was doing because I think the cool thing, and I totally understand the sentiment of like co-op versus AI. In most shooters, in most tactical shooters or games in general, like co-op versus AI, it gets boring. It's like it's just this problem that you just grind against, and most of the time that's what co-op versus AI is used for, is like grinding. But I think in Sandstorm, like Sandstorm had very in-depth, shooter mechanics. You could scavenge magazines off of guns. You could shoot the hinges off of doors. It had this really in-depth, I guess you could say, CQB small unit tactic focus with AI. And the only game that kind of did that was Tarkov, right? So Tarkov has AI, but it also has PvP. But if you could take the Tarkov experience and make it completely co-op versus AI, I think it would still be kind of interesting, you know? So what we did in the Sandstorm mod, and why I think the co-op versus AI Sandstorm mod was like pretty interesting, and that this is coming from someone who doesn't play co-op anything else, is because I approached it as I guess you could say, kind of like a thought experiment or like a puzzle. Like every time we would go in with 4 guys, we crank the difficulty up, we remove all the HUD, and you just try to go through the map. The gameplay plays like Invasion, and you try to do these objectives together without dying. It's kind of like a one life thing. And so there's a challenge and there's a mental puzzle when it comes to how do we take this room, how do we take this door, how do we get this objective, and it was really interesting. So that's one thing that I would definitely like advise people to like try to I don't know, maybe try out. But definitely, like, if we look at the standard co-op experience of most shooters, they're usually just, hey, just shoot this, run here, shoot this, shoot this, shoot this, shoot this, move on. And it's really just absolutely brain dead. But like jacking the difficulty up and limiting it to 4 people, like you get some really tricky like thinking problems, and that's what I liked about the tactical shooting co-op experience in Sandstorm. But they've since strayed away from that direction, and it's gotten like really arcadey, so I don't know.
I kind of actually, as you explain this, I do agree if it's CQB. And I think like if you have that SWAT type style,
Yeah.
where you're moving in, your spec ops trying to, clear and secure very small areas. I feel like that actually works really well. You got games that's still in development, like Ground Branch, that's doing things like that. The There's old like Joint Ops would also have, it is a bit bigger scale, but as well, you'd have just very focused kind of breaching type stuff. You didn't have the just large scale like people running around in almost like a battlefield type sense with AI. And or like if Squad just had an AI map, I think that would play out like pretty poorly.
Mm-hmm.
So that yeah, there's also a game, I don't know if you've played it, GTFO, where
Yes,
it's
I've heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, that's actually pretty fun because it is, yes, against AI, but you're so focused on trying to figure out what to do in this tiny little area. Like you said, it's you're solving a puzzle with guns or hammers or whatever it is, and trying to come up with decisions and how to play it out. So I do think that actually maybe that's what you need to do to get out of a funk, is to play these, because I like the hardcoreness of these games. I like solving it with people. Maybe the solution is to stop playing with a lot of people and then just play with a few people. Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like, because I've gone through huge burnout periods before, and like usually what I'll do, and you said it before too, is like we'll switch to another game. And so like usually what I do is I'll switch from Squad to Escape from Tarkov, and that's like you get that platoon shooter. Now you're down to like solo experience. Or sometimes I go to Sandstorm and I do my co-op thing with four guys. Now you get CQB experience. And so I'm getting slices of the tactical shooter genre, but like very focused. And that usually is refreshing enough and different enough so that when I go back to Squad, I don't usually have that burnout or feel that burnout is hard. But we're in a really weird period right now where both Squad and Tarkov are in these really long periods. So I don't know. Maybe I boot up Sandstorm. I don't know. But it's just like I think it's we just hit that period in time where multiple things have all lined up and that nothing has gotten a fresh content update. I know Hello Loose got an update, so maybe I should check that out. But yeah,
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just a shiny, like paint job. In my I really like Hell Let Loose. I think it's cool. Explosions and some fortifications and some other stuff. I mean, it's I just wish we talked about this before. It was if like Postscriptum and Hell Let Loose and Squad could have a baby, that would be really nice.
yeah.
I feel like there's elements of all that could maybe really hit a home run, but even that, I know if we're talking about stale and we're talking about burnout, dude, some people look at a World War II game and they just groan. They're like, "Hey,
Yeah, it's been
really?"
done. It's been done so much. But
Yeah.
so going back to that whole like having Squad Hell Let Loose and Postscriptum have a baby, I think that's where like the majority of my time and effort and and hours awake have gone towards like this mod. And I know we talk about it so much, but that's like been one of the things that gives me hope. I guess you could say. Is because I'm trying to get that experience. I'm trying to get, it's like, this is probably such a bad analogy, but it's like getting addicted to cocaine and then trying to learn how to make cocaine. That's probably like, that's like literally what it feels like. It's like the people who used to be selling cocaine or whatever don't sell it anymore. So I'm like trying to figure out how to make it. And it's like, it's so exciting because I know I can get that feeling back. And that's probably such a bad analogy. But that's what it feels like, and
You know
so
what? Actually, I'm gonna talk about because I know you always talk about this modding. Going
Yeah.
off a little bit on that. I was you asked me if I could make a mod, what would I make, right? If we're talking about making, I'm gonna use our own game analogy instead of narcotics.
Yeah.
But so if we hello future sponsors, if you're going through our episode 8 of what we're talking about, no, so I would actually, as we're sitting here talking about this, we talked about last time, dude, if we had the hardcoreness and the gunplay and the kind of healing and stuff like that of Tarkov, but in a squad map or squad environment, I would love that. I would play the hell out of that. I don't know how to make it work. I don't know how, like because I haven't delved into the SDK that much, but the elements of Tarkov that make Tarkov just gritty and it has so punchy, and then have the tactics of squad. If they had a baby, that would be a hardcore mod.
Yeah.
That would be something that I would absolutely love. And I feel like that would help shake things up a little bit because maybe the new players wouldn't necessarily be playing that game how they play squad because it's almost impossible. But the harder core players, it would be the guys who played squad with me for ages and are now taking a break. That would probably also be interesting and new, and keep people just wanting to play a little bit more. And it has that kind of cross of the both worlds of, hey, this is hardcore, this can also be a little bit CQB because the scale down for or I guess Tarkov scales is a little bit smaller, but having a little bit more of the squadness, the tactics, the coordination, I think would be, dude. I wish I could just have a team of people and be like, hey, can you just like make this for me? Can I just try it out?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, it's oh god, it's just like we know what we want and it's just no one is doing it right now or has released an update to do it or has made the thing fresh. And like I think that's like after getting into these games so deep and getting those experience, it's borderline depressing when you can't get that experience again from a game that can give it to you. And it's something that I think, I don't know, maybe you play other games to get around it, or you mod it yourself, or you create a game studio and you do it yourself. Like, I don't know. I mean, I imagine that this is where game studios get their ideas and why they branch off and actually make games. So I don't know. Maybe we make we make a brand new game, White. But like, it's very like that's where I think it's the vision, right? It's the vision of what we want to play and knowing what we want, and I guess either waiting for others to execute and do it or doing it ourselves. And it's just a really weird space that we've gotten to because we love something so much and we want to just do it, but it's just hard to do. So we'll see what happens, I guess, and when we break out of this funk, I guess you could say, or how. But I think it's at the end of the day, I do think that it's natural. I do think we hit these periods, over time, and I think it's just a really bad time for a lot of games right now. Well, not bad. It's not even bad. It's just
It's
like,
kind of, I think it's just kind of, you're like what's the word? Meh. You're just kind
yeah,
of like,
it's just
okay,
meh.
whatever.
And hopefully it doesn't look like everyone's talking about streets will fix it, and the new squad update should hopefully bring it back. Like, it doesn't even look like we're on like the biggest downslope ever. It's just been a long time, and we're getting bored, and we're getting restless, and we're getting we're getting our pitchforks ready because we want our stuff now. And it's just like, I guess it's just normal, it just happens. But we're just trying to chill out and play other games and talk about interesting problems and how to fix them, as far as like the OWI situation, or even Tarkov, or just as a gamer, as a normal gamer, how do you get past this burnout? Because that's all we can really do right now, is just try to figure out what we can do in this time.
Yeah, it's it's definitely something, and I know we're focusing on tactical shooters, but as you just said, there's a lot of games I see people talking about. Call of Duty with Cold War is basically a worse Black Ops.
Mm.
You have like all these games, Among Us. People are like, dude, Among Us, how is this still a thing? Like, All Out Guys just was a flash in a pan, and PUBG is now basically you against a whole lobby of bots. If we're talking about AI, you're kind of looking at the landscape, and you're just kind of like, dude, can someone just make a game? And then you have a game like Cyberpunk that was supposed to smash out of the park, and then people are just like,
Oh
can you
yeah,
like finish
maybe.
the game?
I think that really is like adding a lot to the general vibe of everyone. It's like Cyberpunk, especially, like there's just a lot of negative stuff. But then on the flip side, right? WoW, the latest WoW expansion is apparently one of the best expansions they've done so far. I just don't have the time. Like that is such a time-consuming game, and maybe that's the kind of game that I should be playing, because it has that depth and it has that grind that I could be playing it endlessly. It's just that, like, I don't know. I can't make content on
It's not
that.
it's not like mentally stimulating though. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
love
yeah,
WoW,
yeah.
but I watch YouTube or other things. Like, I watch other people do nothing in WoW while I play WoW. And in squad, like, I'm just playing squad. I'm talking with people, I'm figuring stuff out. I know it's different if you do maybe arenas or raiding. I used to raid and stuff like that, but I mean, it's not a, I don't know. Yeah, I could play hours and hours, and I have of WoW, but it's just not the same. It's not the same hit. It's
Yeah,
oh
I think it
man.
has a lot to do with well, going back to that whole rating thing, right? So like, I think a lot of what I base my, positive gaming experiences, or like my taste for gaming, is from WoW, because I grew up playing WoW, like the raids, the dungeons, and that thought experience, that thought process, and that kind of like tricking, or figuring out that trick, or that solving that puzzle in a raid of how to do something. That was some of the most fun I've ever had. And so like, I kind of got some of that back with Insurgency in the mod, because you kind of have that, like, okay, well, what if we put the MG guy here and we try to do that? Like, I love those kind of thought problems and thought experiments. But then, like, when you get the squad, that is like taken 100% to the max, because now you've got the players, you've got real life people who are going to work together to do it, and you've got a dynamic enemy that's going to be fighting against you. So that is like the ultimate thought experiment. And I think that's why I like squad so much. It's not even just the shooting, it's just the figuring out, well, what do we do, how do we beat this, and how
Yeah.
that is changing constantly, because the people under your team are human beings, and they don't operate like in a video game like StarCraft, where you send a Marine to shoot and he hits every single shot and you know exactly what he's doing to do. It's completely predictable. Like, you have a pilot, he crashes the helo, well, there goes that plan. It's just like, it's constantly changing. And I think, I mean, we're getting a little real here, I guess you could say, but like, we talk about in real life how, like, foods are getting, so sugary, so intense, or like how, certain experiments, or not experiments, but certain experiences are getting so intense that it's hard for the human body to keep up, right? And I think we're getting to that point with video games and squad and stuff like that. It's like, we've gotten things so cranked up, so intense, and even Tarkov, it's like that emotional experience. People always talk about it, right? The Tarkov high, right? The jitters. Like, we've gotten so freaking crazy with our video games that everything else now is kind of like meh. Isn't that insane? Like, we have these insane games like Tarkov and Squad, and our bodies are becoming so used to it, so naturalized to the feeling and that experience, that we're kind of like, we look at it and we're like, meh. You know, it's
I know,
actually
right?
crazy when you think about it.
We're spoiled
Yeah, we're
children
spoiled, literally
complaining
spoiled.
about. Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, you build up new tolerances. You expect certain things. I mean, I'm sure if if we're talking about realness, when you were creating your own like channel, for example, you had a certain bar, and once you hit that bar, you now want something else.
Yeah,
And it's I think it's the same with games. If we can experience that, or just anything in life, once you experience that and you can get it relatively regularly, when that is no longer there, you expect that this is a baseline, and we've just kept pushing it further and further. And I think if we bring it all the way back to Squad and how we started this podcast, we've had such a good year generally of content that has kept people so attached to the game and playing and wanting to play with others and wanting to admin and wanting to squad lead and stuff like that, that now that we don't have that and we have a significant drop of those people being here, the quality has dropped so bad that we now look at the game and like, I don't even recognize this. Like, what is
yeah,
happening?
it's
Like, how do
scary.
we get back there?
It's
It is.
very scary. Because
Yeah.
I don't know if this is sustainable. I don't know. It's so weird. Like I don't
Is
know.
it all doom and gloom?
It's just oh god. I really hope it's not. Like we don't want it to be all doom and gloom. It's just that's what it feels like right now. And I don't know what fixes this, and I'm hoping like, oh, V2 drops, and it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about anything. Or Streets of Tarkov drops, it's like, okay, we never had to worry. Or Sandstorm comes out, it's like, boom, oh, they turned it around or something, right? But it's like, I don't know. I worry because I feel like a lot of this isn't necessarily sustainable, and so we're gonna get to a point rather rapidly here where Tarkov or Squad or Sandstorm, they just lose their that like all these tac shooters of the this current generation kind of start to lose their touch, and we need that next generation. And I haven't really heard of any games on the horizon that really catch my eye, right? Because Squad is not a new game. It's been around for like 5 years, right? We're coming off the 5-year anniversary. It's not a new game. Other AAA games have put out games like every year and stuff like that. It's I don't know what that next generation contemporary tactical shooter is, because I
Yeah.
think we need one on the horizon. I really do think we need one. I don't know if it's going to be a Squad 2, but there needs to be something that comes next after Squad, because the way it's going right now, it looks like the dev team, completely within their own right, is starting to, calm down and just do some smaller content updates here. And I think, going back to how the bar's been set and gamers who are in this niche want that need to be met and want that experience, we're gonna need, maybe this is advice for someone, a game studio out there. Like I feel like there's an opening right now for another tactical contemporary shooter.
There definitely is. People want it, man.
Mm-hmm.
People want it. People every day, people come in and ask about it. And hey, is Squad that one? And right now, I'm still saying yes because I feel like it is. And
I know what it is.
even though we right now have some issues with it, we always go back because it's the one right now,
I
and
figured it
it
out
has
though.
been for a while. You
I
figured it
got
out?
it. I got it. You know what the next
What is
big
it?
tactical
What is
shooter
it?
is Arma 4 whenever they freaking
Oh
release
my
it.
god, yeah,
That's what it's
Arma.
gonna be.
Okay, yeah.
It is.
With
It
Half-Life
is.
3. Okay, yeah, we'll all be playing that.
But, oh god, if Arma 4 comes out, if it ever comes out, like I'm hopping on that and I'm just gonna get to modding and I'm gonna make the game that I want in Arma 4, because that's gonna be, so long as Arma 4 isn't garbage, I think that's gonna be a huge, like we talk about Arma 3 still alive and kicking right now with all the crazy mods that are on it right now. I think Arma 4 is gonna be pretty big. I don't know. I just feel like, and like I said, maybe this just comes from us playing it a whole bunch, right? I'm ready for that next contemporary shooter. I think I'm hitting that point where I'm ready for it. It's just gotten to the point where like we've played Squad a whole bunch, and even Squad, right? Like even the OWI CEO is like, all right, it's time for me to move on. So maybe the community's ready to move on too. We'll see, I guess.
Oh man, yeah, that's what it's been an interesting. If you would have told me everything that's happened, I mean, obviously with everything going on outside of the gaming space this year, it's also been crazy. But everything that's been happening with games and especially Squad, games like Tarkov and its success from the beginning of the year to now. It's been pretty insane for tactical shooters. So
It has.
maybe 2021 is a breath of fresh air for some of the older ones, or maybe a new one comes up, and or maybe hey, we just get modding support and we can kind of customize and then run with it. You got Postscriptum having the SDK, so I think I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm gonna tell you I'm still gonna be disappointed with if V1, V2, V3,
Gets
whatever
delayed
V
and
we end
delayed and
up.
delayed.
Yeah, oh man, we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I'm
Cautiously
just,
optimistic.
I'm very hopeful as well, right? Because I love these games. I want to see if it like, I have this feeling of almost dread.
It's the pit, dude. You have the pit. I got the pit in my
It's
stomach.
it's
I'm
like,
just
oh
come on, man.
shit. What if 2021 just doesn't have any good tactical shooter content? And I'm just really worried about that because it's very likely with like how things kind of look for me right now. Is like, what if it doesn't like squads starting to like level out, right? And it's normal, it's natural. Well, then what do I do? What do I do if this squad starts to like decline? Like, I don't know what game I'll play. I really don't. So I hope something's on the horizon. I hope something kicks off because I want to be able to play something that I like, and I have a very specific taste, and I think most people who play these games have very specific tastes, and so I guess we'll just see. But yeah, it'll be an exciting. It'll be a very interesting year for sure ahead of us. It's this is landscape that hasn't really changed since Squad released, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next coming years for sure.
Yeah, I'm I'm with you on the feel and stuff, and then when you look at I don't know. If Tarkov can wipe and just nail it with Streets, I'm okay if V2's delayed. If Streets sucks, if there's no wipe, if V2's delayed, if Hell Let Loose is still Hell Let Loose, if modding doesn't work, dude, I don't know. Maybe I'll just start doing like IRL Warhammer stuff, or do a D&D session. I don't know. Go out in the woods and just I don't know, camp or something. I don't know. Something.
Yeah, it's
Oof.
it's that feeling of like not knowing what we jump onto next is like really weird because I've never
I
had to
need it to
think
grab
about that.
me.
I haven't had to think about that for like so long because it's always been squad. It's always been squad, always been squad, and it's like I know I can always come back to squad, but like if squad continues going the way it's going right now with delays and with people leaving the studio, I don't know like how that looks, and it's just worrisome. So I don't know. We'll see. We could just be getting all worked up and worried about nothing, and maybe there's an awesome tactical shooter that's going to be announced or something. But it's interesting territory, and it's landscape that hasn't changed, like I said, in a while, a couple years. So it was bound to happen, and I think we're just coming up on it.
Yeah. No, it's just the cycle of tax shooters, man.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what the next one brings, or even not even just the next one, the next update brings. And hey, honestly, that could maybe be it.
Yeah.
That could be just that injection of new stuff that we needed just to settle the waters here a little bit.
Yeah, I going back, right, thinking about like how Project Reality was a mod for so long, and then finally Squad came out. Like, I'm thinking I never had to experience that because I never played Project Reality. So once again, I'm completely spoiled, right? I'm not used to having to wait years and years and years for the next generation of contemporary tactical shooter because I didn't get in on that. So that's like, oh boy, it's time to like get ready for the big storm. Just stock up on everything. It's like that's what it feels like. So it's just it'll be interesting for sure. Oh god. But yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, is there? I mean, hey, this is kind of a negative note. Do we have a positive note? Is there anything coming up in between now and the next week? Is there next month? Anything? Can we go out with a bang here?
The holidays are right around the corner.
Oh yeah! Happy holiday season, guys! Merry
Yeah.
Christmas! You don't get a squad update.
I think I'll be trying to distract myself with real life for at least the end of the year here, and just hanging out, and maybe I might hop on some of that cyberpunk stuff. Just I don't know. But then again, right there, right? I hear everyone's like kind of let
Just
down.
play.
And,
It's not that bad.
yeah, oh, just
It's
play
not
it.
that
Okay, it's
bad.
not that
Just
bad.
play
Because
it.
like I'll just do it. Wait for a patch.
Turn the
Do I
internet
not?
off.
Okay, all
Turn
right.
the internet off. Enjoy yourself. Just enjoy the story. There's too much negativity going on. As long as you don't run a potato or you have a PlayStation 2, you should be okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, now that I think about it, that's probably why this free weekend was so bad. Is because like I looked at my friends list this weekend, everyone was playing Cyberpunk. So it's like,
Exactly, dude. People are still playing it in my Discord.
yeah. So I think that's why this free weekend especially felt really, really bad. But yeah.
Oh man.
Well, we'll keep on chugging along. We're not quitting Squad anytime soon. We're still rooting for the studio. Just hope the game, continues pushing out updates, continues doing what they can, and we'll be here doing our part, playing the game, covering it, and I think it'll still be a good time.
Yep, definitely. Okay, well, until next time, thank you guys so much for joining the Command Comms podcast. Where can they find you, Karma?
As always, guys, just on YouTube, youtube.com/Karmika, and Moy, where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/Moydog and youtube.com/Moydog.
Awesome. Well, guys, it's been another emotional. These are so emotional. Another emotional podcast.
I just want to keep. I know, man.
Oh boy. But until next time, guys, thank you so much. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube video. Let us know what you think. And you can follow us on Spotify and Google Podcasts. So thank you so much. And until next time, take it easy.
Peace.